I said, empty your mind. Be formless, shapeless, like water.
It's about how hard you hit. It's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward. How much you can take and keep moving forward.
Join movement expert Aaron Alexander as he dives into the minds of the foremost innovative healthcare thinkers and movement masters on their approach to optimal health and wellness. Align Podcast.
Welcome back to Align Podcast. My name is Aaron Alexander. In today's tremendous episode, I got to have Mike Catherwood on. Mike is a legendary radio personality. He was on Kevin and Bean radio show. He co-hosts Loveline with Dr. Drew. He also co-hosts Swoll Patrol, a podcast with Dr. Drew. And just super genuine, amazing, intelligent human being. I'm really grateful to have had him on. I just watched his Dancing with the Stars video on YouTube. I highly recommend checking that out. I think he danced to The Boys Are Back in Town, amongst probably other stuff. Really great conversation. In this one, we get into how to be an effective personality in radio, TV, life. Got into his journey around drug addiction and a lot of really good stuff. Morning routines, really great, casual, fun conversation. Hope you guys enjoy. Thank you so much for tuning into the website, aligntherapy.com. If you were drawn to that, it's alignTherapy.com. You can start the 5-day movement challenge. On there, you will learn the fundamentals of how to integrate optimal movement into everything that you're doing through the day. Every moment can be like a gym experience or a yoga experience if we know the basic fundamentals. So that breaks that down. So aligntherapy.com. 5-day movement challenge. Thank you guys so much for reviews on iTunes. If y'all leave us a review and I read it like I'm about to do, super simple to do. It's just on your phone. You just scroll down to reviews and put 5 stars, ideally in there. We will send you out a box of something from On It. I'm pulling up a review here. This is from Duncan VH, only podcast I listen to, 5 stars. When Aaron converses with his guests, it's obvious that he takes his time beforehand researching and formulating sincerely interesting and thought-provoking questions. His experience and amiable personality allows his guests to open up and creates a truly unique dynamic to any other podcast that I've listened to. He goes on with some other great stuff. Thank you for that. Hit us up at Align Band or Align Podcast on Instagram, and we will send you out something excellent from On It. And I think that will wrap us up. Final little thing. I just signed final contractual stuff with publishers, and book is coming spring 2020. If you guys have any things that you would love to see in the upcoming book, please hit me up at Align Podcast, and I'm entertaining any ideas that would be valuable for y'all. So that's what we got. Enjoy this conversation. I hope you're having an excellent day. Back to the show.
Align Podcast.
So when was the last time you did bodywork, rolfing stuff? You said 6 years.
Maybe 4 or 5 years ago.
All right.
Somewhere in that ballpark.
What do you think of bodywork? It doesn't have to be like a shameless plug for me.
I love it. I'm a big believer. It's one of those things, like, everyone has the nuts and bolts of their training routine, people who live a quote unquote active lifestyle.
Yeah.
For some people, yoga is what they get to every day, and maybe they should be doing some resistance training, but they only do it once or twice a week, or maybe if that. For me, it was always like lifting weights was the thing that was that was invariable. I was always going to be lifting weights. I should be doing movement. I should be doing body work. I know that, but that I never end up getting into it, Yeah. And I feel like, I always got more and more involved in things like yoga and breath work. The more and more I got into martial arts, things like that become apparent how important they are. Flexibility, breath work, body awareness. It's not so much just about like your 6-pack or the size of your arms.
How'd you get that discovery? Because that's, I think, like traditionally men, just speaking for myself, started off like you just want muscles, superficial vanity, right. And then eventually it's usually you end up banging your head against a wall enough that you need to figure out the whole, like the softer side of it.
I came to it in a kind of a roundabout way. I think most people come to it in a more direct fashion. They discover its importance. Maybe they grow up a little bit and they realize there's more important factors to health. Obviously muscle is an important factor to longevity and health. I don't want to overlook that. But for me, it was more about I had crippling body image issues. When I got into recovery, when I got, sober, hopefully, knock on wood for good. This is about 16 years ago. I was a young man. I was 22, 23 years old. I had crippling body image issues. I mean, I just wouldn't take my shirt off, even at a pool party. I never went to the beach, and I grew up in Southern California. And so I thought, well, I'll deal with it head on. And I got into bodybuilding, and this isn't a knock on bodybuilding by any stretch. Just for me, someone who had body image issues and going into it with a pretty unhealthy relationship with food, because I was an alcoholic and a stimulant addict. I then dove right into something that its sole endeavor is based around your appearance. It turned out to be the worst thing I could do, because then I just became more and more obsessive about my appearance, weighing myself all the time, weighing my food constantly.
Weighing your food
all the time, weighing my food, taking Tupperware everywhere I went, and seemingly the more and more muscular or lean I got, the farther I felt like I had to go.
Right.
It was this never-ending pot at the end of the rainbow, and it turned out the rainbow was never-ending. So I got into therapy, I changed therapists, and I started to dive into it, and really, frankly, invest myself in therapy a little bit more. And I started to explore alternate type of forms of fitness. And one of the first things on the top of the list was martial arts, because my therapist, and I think rightly, figured that it would be good because there's on top of discipline and being physically active, there's a sense of camaraderie. Yeah. You go in there and you could train with a bunch of other guys and gals and start to develop a network of friends, because I was so isolated. I was such an isolated person. I worked in radio. I was always by myself, and I liked it that way. And right around the time I was going through my metamorphosis into Mr. Bodybuilder guy into a guy who was going to explore other things, I was going through a divorce. So I was just painfully alone. And it really opened up my eyes to a lot of things. And because of the physical aspect of it, of moving my body in a different way, that subsequently got me into things like surfing and yoga. But the emotional aspect, the psychological aspect, the benefit of it was I started to learn to like to get to know people.
Right.
That was huge. The idea that I would want to get to know different people, as opposed to doing anything I possibly could to shield myself from getting to know anyone, having to deal with the people I already knew. It's like, oh, well, they're my coworkers. I mean, I got to talk to them. Oh, right. It's my mom and dad. I mean, I kind of got to talk. I opened up my eyes to the idea that, no, maybe it's kind of a good thing to get to know a bunch of different people and to meet new people and to try to be friendly.
That's pretty much, is that like a one-to-one to starting to be willing to get to know yourself? Then you start getting to know the people around, or is that? Yeah,
I mean, I've gotten a lot better at getting to know people than I've gotten with getting to know myself.
Okay.
To be honest, I mean, I still am, and I maybe it's a part of addiction, because I spent so much of my formative years in inebriated state.
Right.
A lot of the stuff that kids do to kind of get to realize who they are, I just bypassed all of it. I was never life of the party guy.
Chris Bell told me something about that. He said that which I don't necessarily think I agree with, but he said when drug addicts, during that time that they were drug addicts, they say that essentially like psychological maturation doesn't happen during that time frame.
Yeah, it can stunt you.
If you're a drug addict for 15 years and all of a sudden you get sober at 35, it's like at 35 you're essentially 20.
Right.
I don't think I agree with that.
Well, who knows if that's exactly what happens, but I do know for me, really starting to drink and use heavily at 16, 17, and then coming out of it at 23 or 22, something like that. That was like a real important time, I think, when you're, as far as self-discovery.
Yeah.
All of my friends who went to college, who did things, who tried to create a career for themselves, who got to know their future wife, whatever it may be, they had these collections of mistakes that built up they built up a lot of kind of self-knowledge and they self-awareness from these ups and downs that they went through. And I avoided all of it. Was just locked away in hotel rooms and bedroom and apartments, just drinking and using.
Wow.
Like I said, it didn't come with like any of the euphoric benefit. Like a lot of times that drug addiction gets romanticized, with in the movies. I wasn't some bon vivant who was going around holding court at different bars and clubs. I isolated, and that was all I had.
Wow.
So I do think that there's become now, for me at least, this self-imposed race to kind of find out who I am. And it's been hard because I think because I've been so hard on myself. It's like, self-awareness, self-discovery. It's forced myself to kind of spin around it and maybe alter what that is from day to day, because I'm so pressured on it when it should be kind of something that's a little bit more organic. But the get to knowing other people too. I mean, I can honestly say it's like it's enjoyable for me to meet new people, and it's nice to be around people. I embrace living in an overpopulated area as opposed to bemoan it.
What was the psychotherapy stuff that you were doing, and that was beneficial?
A lot of cognitive behavioral therapy.
Okay.
Really, really working hard at understanding that my thoughts create my emotions, not vice versa.
Yeah.
I don't just wake up in a bad mood, that I have control over it, and that my thoughts are something that I can really take control of. And it's that's the more of the woo-woo kind of hippie aspect of it, but
it's a real thing.
Positive thinking really is an important aspect to being a happy person. Yeah. And there's inevitably bad things are going to happen. I'm a human being. You lose a job, or you get in a fight with your wife, whatever. I mean, these are the things that sometimes get me down, but I have control over how I react to that. I have control over depression, anxiety. These are things that I'm the master of, and I'm not beholden to them.
Yeah. Do you have like routines that have been helpful for you, like a morning thing or a nighttime thing or anything?
My morning routine's pretty rigid, and it's meditate. It's the first thing I do when I wake up is meditate. Cool. Every day. Next thing I do is write in my gratitude journal.
Good. Which one?
I use the 5-minute journal.
Dude, I got mine sitting right over here. Alex Icon.
There it is.
I was IG messaging with Icon yesterday.
Nice.
We're going to get him on here.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
He's never out here, though. He's he's all over the place. Do you follow his Instagram stories?
No.
He's fucking everywhere.
That's another thing, is like I've tried to not invest myself in Instagram.
You don't want to do it.
Well, because it hurts my self-discovery quest. Because then
really?
I start to let what everyone else's idea of what is good or bad seep in.
Yeah. There's very few people that I'm actually excited to kind of like check into.
Yeah.
I try to use it responsibly.
Yeah, I a lot of times I say now, look, Twitter's for my brain, Instagram's for my boner. And that's it.
That's good.
That's it. I exclusively follow like IG models,
good,
and Victoria's Secret models,
good,
and fitness chicks that do squats and thongs, and
that's perfect.
That's it. And then Twitter, I follow people. No one's gonna troll or say negative things. Not even comics that I like. I just follow news sources, and I use it for information. I use Instagram for my boner.
I gotta get on your Instagram. Mine's bullshit. It's just Alex Icon driving around Paris. It's nonsense.
Yeah, I mean, I was getting a little bit overloaded with like the positive thinking, or the following so many different like self-help people and movement coaches and bodybuilders and strength trainers and MMA fighters, and it was just like this constant information overload.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that. There's absolutely nothing wrong with, I mean, that's like maybe the most beautiful thing about the internet is get access to, I would kill to get access to what Trent Reznor was doing when I was 16. I would kill to be able to like, just like, oh my God, he's in Paris. Look at 9 Inch Nails about to go on stage. But I found myself like almost with a hunger for information, and it became too much. I needed to check out, tune out a little bit. And so now that's all I do. But getting back to my routine, it's meditate 20 minutes in the morning, 20 minutes at night. But the first thing I do every day is I wake up, my wife and I wake up at the same time. I go in the living room. She stays in the bedroom. We both meditate, write in my journal, and then, fire up the kettle, get it going, maybe have a little tea, a little coffee, depending on how I'm feeling, and then kind of plan out how things are going to go.
Cool.
That's my morning routine.
What about nighttime?
Nighttime, it's right in the journal on the heels of my nighttime meditation, which is probably got pushed a little too late in my opinion. But I always now I just have to wait till my daughter goes to sleep because there's no meditation when you have a 4-year-old.
Right.
Like so she has to check out completely. Then I can meditate. Then I write the things I'm grateful for and all the amazing things that happened that day.
Yeah, dude. I find it super helpful. I find it aggregates. Like I find like the more that I have gratitude for the stuff.
Right.
At first, it was hard to like remember what I was grateful for. Or whatever.
Sure.
I was like, what did I mean? I had like the sandwich was good, whatever bullshit.
Yeah,
and then it starts to add up. You're like, oh, there's a lot of good stuff going on.
And then you start to get angry if you don't do it in a very regiment way. Then it starts to become stupid and frustrating.
Right.
Because you're like, well, what am I grateful for today?
Right.
And you're like, oh, that sandwich. What am I doing? I'm getting grateful for a sandwich? That's fucking stupid. My life sucks. Whereas opposed to if you sit down and you write it down, it's like, no, let's take a break. Let's write this down. And a lot of times I get more heady. It used to be I just write, I'm grateful that I have my hair,
Yeah.
Which I am. I'm at that age where a lot of my friends are struggling with that. I'm fucking grateful that I get to keep my hair,
Yeah.
But now it's getting more heady. It's things like I'm grateful for my daughter's innocence. I'm grateful that my wife is so supportive that she doesn't get upset that I'm this depressive mess.
How often do you deal with the depression stuff now? How often is it still like, oh, there it is?
I would say daily.
Yeah, really.
Maybe, but it's like I deal with it daily. But now instead of being this lean in shape opponent, it's like the over the hill fighter who should have given up a long time ago, and I'm the lean in shape guy.
Right, it's still talking shit, but you're like,
and don't get me wrong, I know somewhere back there he has the right cross. That's a Widowmaker, but he's fat and he hasn't fought professionally in 2 years, and he's trying to make a comeback.
Wow, that's good.
So
it's a hell of an analogy.
Yeah, thank you.
That was legit. So what do you do when you get into those places where you start to feel like the dark Widowmaker?
I literally pause. When I say that, I mean if I'm driving, I'll pull over. If I and I'll say stop it. I'll turn off the music, whatever I'm doing, and I'll pause. If I'm at home, I'll go in a room where I can be by myself. Put the phone away, whatever. Put the guitar down and sit there and pause and say, what are my emotions right now? Okay, what was the thinking that led to these emotions? And then just kind of reverse engineer it. Or take that dish apart so that I could find out every ingredient. Yeah. And then I remove the ingredients that are making this dish bad. That's the way I look at it.
Have you ever heard of kintsugi? Mm-mm. This is a complete random tangent. But kintsugi is a Japanese practice pottery thing where then when they break the pot, you said the dish.
Oh, yeah, where they highlight it in gold?
And then they emblazon it in gold.
Yeah, I have heard about that.
It's kind of a cool thing. So it's kind of like embracing the bullshit of our lives. It's like, fuck yeah, the bullshit. Like I'm proud of the breakage.
And it's true. Like instead of trying to pretend like those cracks don't exist.
Yeah, like just wear them.
Yeah.
You do that.
I kind of do, yeah. I mean,
you're kintsugi.
Yeah, well, I think that I've been very lucky that, the radio that I've done, and then the type of radio I've done, it's kind of forced me to be that guy, to expose my own vulnerabilities. If I'm going to host an advice show with a doctor, and I'm not a doctor, I'm not a nothing. I have zero credentials as far as why you should listen to me when I give you advice. The only thing I do have is I've made all those mistakes before and more. And that's not currency to me unless I'm open about it, So that was something that I think I found value in, that kintsugi kind of happened. I was almost forced into it. If I wasn't vulnerable and open about my mistakes and about what was troubling me, people would have taken it as total bullshit.
So how do you finagle your way into that position, being not a doctor?
I got into radio right after I got clean. I mean, right after, because I always dreamed of being a musician. I wanted to be a rock star. That was what I wanted to do. But the rock star lifestyle got a hold of me more so than actual music.
Right.
So when I got clean, I moved back to LA, here where I'm from. And kind of with hat in hand, my parents helped me out. I was open about the fact that I was like, my life had become completely unmanageable with drugs and alcohol. So I got a job at K-Rock, the alternative rock station here, as a straight job. I thought, I'm going to get my life back on track, and I'm going to start joining bands, and I'm going to gig, and I'm going to be this huge rock star. But I'll do this because it's a way better job than like swinging a hammer or pumping gas, which is, really I was a blue collar guy. That's all I had credentials for. So I got a job there, just kind of lifting boxes and sweeping up the station. And I started prank calling the morning show and writing parody songs and stuff that I would submit to them. And after like 8 or 9 months of doing that, they hired me kind of reluctantly. And so I started working for the Kevin and Bean morning show. And then about 7 years into that, Adam Carolla had left Loveline on, which was the nighttime show on the same station. And so they needed a co-host alongside Dr. Drew, and that's how I kind of weaseled my way in there.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Huh. How many points throughout that time frame were you had to have been planning on giving up, I would imagine, several times along the way, or not so much?
Yeah. No, definitely. Early on, when I first got hired by the morning show, I was cutting up tape. I was editing things, taking out the coughing and the ums and ahs out of stuff so that we could replay it the next day. I was going to find old tape so that we could pull a sound bite. I mean, I was doing getting the bagels and coffee, the most non-glorious stuff. And I was getting paid absolute shit money. And not that that's like, of paramount importance, but I started to think about like, how am I going to make a career out of this? How am I going to make a living? I had no hope for transitioning into being an on-air personality. And so there was, almost daily I was thinking to myself, like, I thought, well, I might as well just get in the fitness industry, because I was working as a personal trainer on the side to make actual money so that I could pay my rent and stuff.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, I'll just have to make that my career. I didn't really want to, but I thought for sure that was going to happen,
Yeah, I would imagine probably a good percentage of people that listen to this probably go through similar situations like that, where it's like, well, I just give up. I think it's like, to me, hearing you say that to me is like inspirational just to listen to. Kind of like we're all probably going through little moments of that even right now.
Absolutely.
It's like a perpetual thing.
I mean, I thank you for saying that. I mean, I hope it could be, the idea of me being inspirational to anyone is like so flattering. It means a lot to me. But there was, a point where Joan Rivers, I heard her talk about it. She was a woman, God rest her soul, but towards the end of her life, she had become wildly popular again. But there was 2 decades where she couldn't get hired to do anything. I mean, people wouldn't hire her. She couldn't even appear on talk shows.
Yeah.
And in the 70s, you're talking about one of the most important comedians on the planet, certainly the most important female voice in comedy in the world. And then she goes through the 80s and 90s, so she couldn't find anything. And she talked about, she's like, the music stops, but you just got to keep dancing. You just got to keep going, no matter what, and that's what separates the people who make it and the people who don't. Is that everyone encounters those times when you want to stop, but if you really believe in it, you got to keep going.
Have you ever read through the Bhagavad Gita at all?
I mean, I'm familiar with it, but I haven't.
So there's one, oh snap, I'm gonna forget his name. Akwan Eswaran. I need a red tape cutter to cut out when I forget. Anyway, Ekwan Eswaran. I don't know what it is, but
sounds good.
Yeah, it's good. Eswaran part's the first part. I'm not sure, but one of the things that he gets into there is the renunciation is like one of the highlighting points of it. So renunciating, one of the big renunciations is your attachment to the outcome of the stuff that you do. So it's like, if you're really passionate about the thing that you're doing, then whether it fails or, does great or, whatever, it's just that you really enjoyed the experience of being there. And so to me, I feel like living in LA, there's a lot of attachment to the outcome of like what people are going to think. And it creates a lot of fucking like stress, like turmoil.
Well, especially in the entertainment industry, because what people think is kind of vital to how well you do in that industry. Yeah. I mean, it's I'd love to see, there's no other industry where hard work and determination means less.
Right.
Because I can guarantee you there's a lot of people, men and women right now that are listening that are actors that are crazy talented and work their ass off and they're going nowhere. The entertainment, my wife's an actress and I see it firsthand. There's no other industry where, like I said, you could have it, you could be great, you could work hard, you could do all the things. If that one person doesn't notice you and then get 3 other people to agree that you're the right person for that gig, it's so many outside factors that are totally outside of your control.
Yeah.
And you just got to give up. You got to give up to the fact that resign to the fact that you really don't control your own fate, and that's tough.
Yeah.
That's tough. So it's extra important that you realize what people think about you really isn't important, but don't get it twisted. It is, as far as your level of success,
Yeah.
But on a psychological, on a much more cosmic level, you're right. I think people get wrapped up in, well, what is everybody going to think about this?
But then I wonder to get into like the deeper creative stuff, if you have that mask of what are they going to think, I wonder if that somehow like stifles your ability to get into some of the stuff that might be, the real revolutionary type creative work.
Maybe. Ricky Gervais was a guest on Loveline once, and he told me something I'll never forget. Well, we were off the air at a commercial break, and I said, dude, I hate to be this guy, but I'm someone who wants to be creative for a living, and I try to be funny. Is there any advice you can give me? And he said, no matter what, you can't write for what you think they want. You got to write what you believe in.
Right.
You got to. It doesn't matter if you think that this is gonna kill. I know this room. This isn't my A game, but I'll write this because I think they will laugh.
Yeah.
You have to write what you truly think is funny, and you got to stick to it. Because once you start writing for them, you're sunk.
Yeah.
And I was, that always stuck with me.
Yeah.
I don't know if he's right or wrong, but certainly his career speaks for itself.
Right. Yeah, it seems like if you get lost in just doing it for other people, it becomes like a form of prostitution in a way. Mm-hmm. Whereas if you can keep it within another Bhagavad Gita reference, as it talks about, if you're in alignment with your passion, they essentially relate that passion, your purpose, your calling, whatever, to God. So we all kind of have this like hotline up to God, this plugged up to God, and it's that inner kind of like stomach rumbling drive.
Right.
And if you're doing that, then you're plugged into it. And as you start to deviate away from that, now all of a sudden you kind of come off of the source, and that's when you start getting all jacked up.
And it's hard, man. It's hard. Now
it's easier said than done.
Social media has made it infinitely harder.
Yeah.
Because now we're all beholden to what people think. Looking at those comments and.
Yeah.
But it's true. Jack White said the same thing too. I remember in an interview he was on either Loveline or the Kevin and Bean show, but Jack White was talking about like I gotta write the songs I think are good songs. I can't get into like what the label guy thinks is gonna be a hit, or because then you're sunk. I had to just stay the course and do what I thought was right.
Yeah. You got to take off out of here kind of soon. We'll only do like 30 minutes or so. What time you say you got to be out here by like 4 is the max?
4 is probably my limit.
What do you call for, so with hosting a show, what are some like standout qualities that a good host needs to have?
Man, I would say look them in the eye, proverbially, obviously, because you're looking into a camera or a microphone, and speak from the heart. It's an incredibly difficult thing to do. It took me so long to get there. I can't even watch myself on TV. Radio a little easier. There's something naturally authentic about radio in comparison.
Yeah.
But I can't even watch because you get mixed up in this idea of the image of what you're putting out as opposed to just being yourself. And trying to be yourself is hard enough in life, but trying to be yourself on TV, it's a mess. It's a mess. And so that would be the reason, like, people like to shit on Ryan Seacrest, but the reason he's so awesome at what he does, the reason he has the career he does, is because he's being on. Ryan Seacrest really is that guy. He wants to chat it up about American Idol and and hear about like your hometown and where you come from. He's that dude. He's always been that dude. He wanted to be that guy, and he does it well. It's very authentic to him, you know. And it's the same reason that Howard Stern's Howard Stern. He doesn't mind getting the biggest stars in the world and asking them how big their breasts are, because that's him.
Right.
14-year-old Howard Stern is the same guy as 6-year-old Howard Stern. He's looking dead into someone's eyes and just being himself and speaking from the heart. And that's the key. I always say, to me, the best that I'll ever live, was Letterman, Stern, and Oprah. And if you look at all those three, they were just invariably authentic. Their whole career, they were just themselves. Letterman had no problem just being like, I hate my job. This is terrible. But this next guest, he's a dope. All right, let's bring him out. It's reality star, fill in the blank. Yeah. And he wasn't doing the schmaltzy thing. It just wasn't him. He was Mr. Dry, sarcastic prick, and he was like that when he was a 21-year-old weather guy in Indianapolis, and he was like that when he was retired. I
think it also you're able to maintain the energy to keep going if you're genuine.
Yeah.
It's like the second you get out of that your genuine self, then all of a sudden it's like you're going against the grain, or like the wind's in your face kind of.
Right.
But as long as you're in there, you're kind of like, okay, I'll just get blown by that.
Well, I've noticed it. I got into stand-up. I've only been doing it. I'm an absolute beginner, and by that I mean I'm maybe a year and a half, 2 years in. That's nothing in the world of stand-up.
Right.
And that's made me see that that idea with such clarity. Because if I get up there and I bomb, when I'm doing material that I think is really me, that I'm just trying to be myself, I don't mind.
Wow.
I mean, it's like, listen, the greatest in the world bomb. They're working out material. When I go up there, even if I get chuckles, when I'm trying to be maybe like extra dirty or go for the low-hanging fruit, even if I get the laughs, I go, but I didn't. That wasn't really me. I was, I kind of sold out on that, and it feels bad. It feels worse than getting no laughs.
Huh. How do you prep for stand-up?
Right. I know a lot of people like they have. I'm certainly not like the best person to ask it, because I'm such an abject beginner.
Maybe the best person for that reason.
Maybe, but to me, it's just like I feel like if the material's there. Meaning, like, you've done the work, you've done the hard work, that's the best way to prepare. Because going up there and performing, if that was hard, you wouldn't be doing it. Obviously, you have something inside you that likes the spotlight. So the hard work, the discipline comes from making sure you write. So if I know that I've done that, and I've got like a tight 7-12 minutes, whatever it is, then that's the best preparation for me.
Nice.
Wanted to take a quick moment to thank the Align Band for supporting this podcast. Align Band is a rad self-care product created by yours truly. I use it with every one of my clients, friends, family. I take it with me anytime I go on any type of traveling trip. Highly recommend getting a resistance band in your life, even if it is not the Align Band. Get yourself a resistance band. This guy comes with a door anchor, traveling case, so you can hang it up on any hotel door, car door, anywhere. And then you have a band hanging, so you can start mobilizing, opening up your hips, opening up shoulders, opening up the ankles, lengthening your neck, whatever you got to do, you can do it with the Align Band. You can find it at aligntherapy.com/gear. That's Align Therapy, ALIGN therapy.com/gear. It's also on Amazon, all those different places. Thank you so much for swooping that thing up if you are called, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the episode.
Yeah, you do a really good job with your craft, man. It's cool. Like I heard you talking, I think on maybe Bert Kreischer's or somebody's podcast, but talking about the craft of hosting and the craft of like really putting yourself into that role.
You're saying, thank you, man.
Yeah, like people end up being like an Instagram, underwear model celebrities turned host or whatever, but actually that being the craft is
and
I'm not
going to disparage those people. That's not what I mean by this. I want to make it very clear. I'm not going to shit on someone because they were a model and they got hired, or they were an actress and they got hired to become a host of fill in the blank show.
Yeah,
that's circumstance, and good for them. But that used to be a job. The idea of host, that is a gig in and of itself. And I feel like a lot of times people now, because of people have 13 million Instagram followers, are like, that's the guy.
Right.
That's the guy we need to hire. And I was like, no. It's a craft. learning how to do it well and really putting the effort in, it's something I took very seriously. I started to take very seriously about a decade ago, and we'll see if it pays off.
Mother of God.
That's who's on the phone?
That's the mother of Lord right there. That's terrible. Sorry about that.
No problem.
Son of a bitch.
You think it's still rolling?
I don't know. It's okay.
Okay.
We're gonna wrap up here in a jiffy anyway. Well, cool, dude. I'd love to get another time. I'd love to learn about like diet and movement and ketosis and all that stuff at some
Let's
point.
do it. I'm about 4.5 minute drive from you, so
Perfect.
let's see.
And you surf kind of, sort of.
Yeah, I do. I surf. I may be a kook, but I surf. I can say that. I can
Good.
say, and I know a lot of people they carry a board around. They say I surf. No, I surf.
Yeah.
I may be a kook, but I surf.
You get up to Breakwater?
Yeah.
Good.
I got married there.
Nice.
I know.
Venice Breakwater.
Yeah, it's where my wife
That's
and I just walked out.
That's a
walked out on the
grungy,
beach.
rad, amazing place to get married.
It pretty much was. It was very real. That's getting back to the authentic. It just felt very us, man.
Dude, that's legit.
Yeah.
So just like out in the crowd?
Yeah, about maybe 10 friends. My parents, her mother, her father had passed.
Why'd you choose there? That's awesome.
My wife and I both mutually, exclusively, were living in Venice when we met.
All right.
Like, it was just a coincidence. When I went to pick her up on our first date, I was like, "Where do you live?" She's like, "Oh, in Venice." I was like, "No way. Where?" "I live in Venice." And she's like, "Oh, right by the canals." I was like, "No fucking way." And totally unbeknownst to both of us, we lived like 100 yards from each other.
Cool.
So we got super invested in like the neighborhood, and it just seemed so right. And it turned out, man, we were getting married, and it was a small group of us, and dolphins start popping out of the water right as we're about to say "I do," and the whole thing seemed so perfect.
Cool.
It all worked out.
I like that. I think people get too wrapped up in like the magic needing to be somewhere in Tibet or in like France or something like that. That's all bullshit. I mean, there's magical places, and it is nice to change your location. But if you're trying to meditate or something like that, you don't need to go to the other side of Earth.
It's really a beautiful testament to humanity too. Like, we were walking up, my wife's like in this wedding dress on the beach. I'm in a tuxedo, barefoot within a tuxedo. And we're getting, like, the homeless people come over and tell us congratulations and stuff.
Great.
It's like, it's just such a testament to humanity. Like, the idea of this big, over the top, expensive wedding, nothing wrong with that. A lot of people have really enjoyable experiences with those weddings. But the idea that we had that kind of, we almost rolled up our sleeves and got our hands around a human experience.
I like it.
So it was nice.
That's cool, man.
Thanks, man.
People probably don't need to. I mean, people probably know where to find you. Your show's a pretty popular thing in the world. But how do people learn more about your stuff? What's
Swoll
next?
Patrol podcast?
Yeah.
With Dr. Drew. I'm really trying to promote that. I believe in it. I think that, like, in a world, obviously, there's a lot of health and fitness based podcasts, but we do something different. We have a real, actual physician sitting there giving the scientific side of it, and there's comedy. It doesn't take itself too seriously. So the Swoll Patrol podcast, if you're into that, and at Mike Catherwood on Instagram and Twitter.
Boom.
So
Thanks, man.
thank you for doing this, man. I appreciate it.
Appreciate the time. Hope that knee sorts itself out.
think it
How's the
will.
knee feeling right now?
Feeling good, man.
Yes.
Feeling good.
Align Podcast.
Thank you guys so much for tuning into that conversation. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. There's some ways that you can support this podcast, one of which you can pick up an Align band, which is a heavy-duty resistance band. Comes along with a door anchor and a carrying case and a video guide on how to mobilize those joints and integrate that body of yours. Really great stuff. You can be found at aligntherapy.com and also on amazon.com. Thank you also so much for utilizing the Amazon affiliate link on the right-hand sidebar of the podcast page. Bookmark that thing. Anytime you purchase some crap on Amazon, purchase that crap through that link. We get a percentage of it. Costs you nothing. And I think that's enough. Thank you guys so much for reviews on iTunes. Thank you for listening. Thank you for supporting. Have a beautiful rest of your day. Pow.